Welcome to Oh Brother, the podcast where we try to figure it all out. With your hosts, Brandon and Colin. On this week's show, Physical Media Fiend.
Ahoy!
Ahoy!
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah. Oh, well, I love cats.
Do you?
Cats are wonderful. I think that they are a great pet and that people should have them. However,
but not you.
when things go wrong with a cat, just like so much more, I don't know, like damage is done than a dog.
Well, I think more often. I have seen some dogs eat a lot of things.
Well, I will say this.
Right.
When a cat decides it no longer wants to use its litter box.
Okay, fair.
So we have been caring for this cat for these 3 cats. And that's the other thing that made this difficult. 3 cats for 2 weeks now. And with 3 cats, it's hard to know what their schedule is, what their normal routine is of how much pee is normal, how much poop is normal versus who is pooping, who is peeing, which spot, which cat is this? Where are they going? But all along I've been going, okay, yeah, there's plenty of poop there. And there's plenty of pee here. However, it turns out, no, we were missing some because one of the cats was going downstairs and peeing on the cushion of the leather couch.
Oh, that's exciting.
Now, here's what happens. When you pee on leather, it doesn't soak in. It runs off. Yeah. And in this case, what it was doing, it was run around the back of the cushion,
down into
the couch, down onto the floor. And so I didn't notice this until yesterday.
Okay.
And so when I flipped up the couch, it was major, like lake.
Yeah.
Now, fortunately, it fell onto their hardwood, not hardwood floors, but the like
laminate floor. Yeah,
laminate. Yeah, fake wood. But it's all of like one cohesive piece. So it there's no
so it
joints.
Go. Oh, that's
yes. So this was also also a thing. So I have been in rehab mode for this couch. I had to flip the couch over, scrub it out from underneath, spraying disinfectant, soaking it with this stuff using deodorizer and things like that. So it's fun.
That's the weird part about cats too, right? It's like, now again, this is not knowledge I have from firsthand. I would like to just go ahead and point this out to listeners because I have not had a cat since we were children, and we had Charlie the cat, right? So that was a very, very long time ago. But having seen my cat from hell, obviously, I know that that's just the only thing. And having friends with mini cats. I know that like the weird part about cats in the litter box is like they'll use the litter box until they just decide they don't want to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, what? And it could just be like they just don't like the way that litter feels on their toes anymore. And they're done. Or, they all of a sudden just don't like this litter box. And then you have to go through the whole shtick of like, and I have to find like a different litter because some of them will just all of a sudden be like, nope, I like closed litter boxes only. Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, I have been using this open litter box my entire life, but not anymore. Sorry, I'm done. And there's or just like the litter, all of a sudden they're like, no, I don't like that litter. Or eat like the food even. They'll be like, no, I don't eat that food anymore. Sorry. You're just like, what? Yeah. What? It's so weird. Like I'm sure there is some sort of trigger, right? But they're so strange anyway. But like, that's what they'll do. They'll just be like, "Yeah, no, I'm done. Sorry, I don't do this anymore." And you're just like, "What? What? What do you mean you don't do? You did this yesterday? What happened yesterday? What are you talking about?"
Oh, I know. And so that's where it's like, oh, anyway, I can't. Like, I really do like cats. But because of this kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, it seemingly, now again, it seemingly came out of nowhere where all of a sudden,
Yeah.
This cat just started doing it. Now, cats do this for many reasons. They can be stressed. They can be, yeah, and so, but yeah, when you walk in and you find that, it's like,
Yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like a lot, since cats are so since they can be, I don't want to, try not to dunk on cats too much, but since they can be quite aloof things, like things can happen in their life that you don't see, right? Maybe sometimes there was like a stressful event that occurred and it like freaks them out. And then now they're doing stuff completely different, but you didn't ever see the thing that freaked them out, right?
Yeah.
And so you don't know what's going on. Sometimes it's like the neighbor got a cat and they can like sense it. And then they're like on defense territorial mode.
Yeah.
But you have no idea, right? They'll just start like wigging out and doing crazy stuff. What is going on?
or sometimes it's just that the wind is blowing differently today.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it could be like, there could be like something that scared him, right?
Yep.
And it could be anything, like you said, it could be a wind, it could be something, but it startled them to such an extent that now they don't want to do the thing they were doing before, and they're just like, nope,
they're
sorry.
They're 100% not okay with this anymore, and they need you to be on board with that. And so you're like,
yeah,
great. So this is
Correct.
not fun. So anyway, that's what I was on my hands and knees scrubbing up on the floor again this evening. Having
very fun,
loads of fun.
Oh yeah, that sounds like it.
No. No, but no, that's what we've been doing. Not a whole lot going on this week. So yeah, it's all fun.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's very good.
I think so. But
yeah, we haven't had a whole lot either. We had a birthday party on Saturday.
Oh,
yes. Quince time is the season. We've been invited to like 3 like every weekend in June. So it's fine.
Oh no.
So like my week calendar during the week is very full, but my weekends are just like booking up quickly. Who knew? But it was really cool. It was really sweet. Like grandma was able to come, so that was very nice. And I don't know how much she's around. I don't know if she is living still in like this is a Guatemalan one, right? And so I don't know if that's where she is or what, but she was there. So it was like a really tender, lots of sweetness happening. There's a lot of fun, right? It's really nice. They just kept thinking, the parent, like the dad, just kept being like really happy we were there.
Yeah,
you invited us, man. I don't know. Like, what is
like, what did you expect me to do?
Yeah, he's like, of course I'm coming. You gave me an invitation. What are you talking about? But it was really sweet. It was really cool. So that was a lot of fun. So that was pretty much the only exciting thing that we've done this week, really. Pretty much it.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. But I did fall down a rabbit hole this week that has brought me much rage.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yes. So,
right. So I have a little something for you here. I stumbled upon this conspiracy theory of which I was unfamiliar, really. And I watched some videos that like like the debunking ones where people like talking about like what the heck it was.
Yeah.
And then I did watch a few videos and stuff about people that believe in it. And it just, I don't know why, but I have an unbridled rage for this topic.
No.
It makes me angry. I have many notes here for you. I'm gonna as calmly as I possibly can. But like, I'll watch the video and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this dude is an idiot. And then I always make the mistake of reading the comments and I'm like, oh no.
Oh no, they're all everybody.
There's always at least one dude. I don't leave comments on videos just because like if I start, I'll never stop. And that's just
I don't want to be traced, honestly. I don't want to
that too, to know right? Right. I mean, if I did, I would change the name to like, some weird just
Senior
like,
Wences or something.
Yeah. Some like innocuous like thing, right? Yeah. But like the comments that are always like, oh my gosh, so true. Once your eyes are open, you can't unsee.
Yes.
What else are they hiding from us? You're like, I can't. What? And then sometimes I always look for the one dude that's like, bro, are you nuts? What the heck are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take you on a journey through these 4 pages of notes that I have scribbled down.
Holy what? What is?
Yeah. Right. A little bit more. The end. I couldn't like. I have so many feelings about the end that it's kind of like not in order. Right.
What even is this?
Yeah. So I have entitled my notes. I even gave them a title. I was feeling particularly literary, probably because of what we're going to talk about a little bit later. Right. Our introduction to our next topic. But yeah. Right. I was feeling particularly literary. So the title of my notes are The Tartarian Empire and the Great Mud Flood, or Modern Man Confused by Architecture. That's what I have here.
Oh my gosh. The Great Mud. Well,
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Lead on.
So here. We'll start at the beginning.
Yes.
Right?
What a
right.
It's a very good place to start.
This whole idea. It's kind of so the whole basic. Here's the problem, right? The theory here, the idea. I'm not going to give it the benefit of being called a theory. This notion that these people share, it does not seem to be unified, really, in any way. It's not quite of as unified as like a flat Earth situation, right? Where there's like 1 or 2 different ideas and everybody falls into a couple camps. It just kind of seems to be like it's like a buffet. There's like all of this stuff is loosely tied together and the adherents just sort of pick their favorite things. Right. So it's kind of hard to describe. But basically, the theory goes that once upon a time, there was a great empire called Tartaria. Right. Now, this empire, possibly it was a globe spanning civilization, right? Possibly giants. There might be giants involved. That depends. That's one of the things.
There might be giants.
Okay. Some of them might be giants. Sure. But this civilization was wiped out in a quote reset event. Right? So the history of Earth is sprinkled with these reset events where the old world is wiped out and a new civilization comes. Now, this reset event is what they refer to as the mud flood. Where did the mud come from? I don't know. How long did it last? I don't know. Is that
okay?
So some of the adherents believe there was some sort of war also involved, like there was a battle, and then the cataclysm happened, right? But basically what this means, what's happening here is these people don't believe that a lot of modern buildings were built by people in the 1800s. These are remnants of the Tartarian civilization, and we found them. They like to say founded them because they don't understand what founded means, right? They think founded and found share a similar etymology, and that is false.
Yes, fair.
But we discovered them, and we just sort of like moved into the buildings. Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Right.
Oh, okay.
So they think that if you find like a big, now this reset event, there again, not a lot of cohesion. The last reset happened sometime between 1812 and 1850. So they think that buildings built in the 1800s are beyond the scope of human construction and therefore not possible.
I feel like that's a really recent date. It
is a really recent date.
To pick.
More on that later.
Sorry, I was expecting like 16 or whatever, 15, but when you said 18, I was going,
yeah. Huh. No. Like, again, some people say 1812, some people say as late as 1850, right? The problem is, like, a lot of the buildings they cite are buildings that were built in like the 1880s, and they just don't believe that it's possible to build those buildings in the 1880s. So they must also have just been there. The construction was faked. That's not real. The construction photos are like them renovating the building.
You know, that makes a lot of sense when you put it like that.
Yeah, yeah. That's the crux of the theory here.
Is it the real quick? Sorry. Is it the same? Maybe you'll get to this. Is it the same reset type of it each time? Is it always a mud flood, or is it different things?
As far as I'm aware, I don't know exactly. Some of them talk about the buildings look melted, so I think that's why they think there was some sort of war, and then something. But again, those people, that kind of goes into a different theory that's not mud floody. So I'm gonna. That's just kind of an outlier on here.
Okay.
They're major pieces of evidence, right? Capitol domes, right? So you know how all the state capitals look the same?
Of course.
Because they all want to look like the United States Capitol.
Uh-huh.
And that's architectural planning.
Mm-hmm.
No. All of those buildings were built by an ancient civilization. And then we are using their palaces as our state capitals. Clearly.
How?
Yeah.
Convenient.
Yep. Even though a lot of them have very well documented construction. No. Also, churches. More on churches a little bit later. But churches.
Very small rock.
Yeah, churches. I have a whole section on churches. But, they think that because a lot of churches look similar.
Okay. So
that they were all built by a similar. Not that there's a very long history of church architecture spanning about 1,000 years.
Or more.
Not like there's any, or more. There's not any symbolism baked into the design of the building.
No.
Right.
None of it has actual. No. We've just imbued that meaning onto it.
Yes. We just use them as churches now. More on what they were originally later, because I have a whole thing about that, because it's infuriating. Also, star forts. They think that star forts, because star forts exist, and they all look the same. Not because it's like a really, really efficient military design, and people have been building star forts since like the 1400s. No. Those are all found buildings too.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the crux of the theory here. That's kind of the basic overall concept is that these buildings were not built like you think they're built.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. You think you know buildings.
So this shares, moving on to the beginning of the actual theory, right? The Have you heard of like the new chronology or the phantom time hypothesis? Right.
It sounds really familiar.
So the phantom time thing is there's a certain group of people that believe the Middle Ages never happened. They believe that timeline was constructed by the Catholic Church for some reason. Right. There's like 500 years of time that didn't actually occur, and all of the events that happened in there were fabricated by the Catholic Church. And it's a big worldwide conspiracy, right?
That's
not forgetting that like Eastern Orthodoxy exists, and if that did happen, they would definitely have something to say about this, right? Like,
yes, yep.
Right? I'm pretty sure the Byzantine Church would have been like, "Hey guys, they're trying to pull one over on you," because they're not really friends.
They didn't really brook a whole lot of yeah. Friends with that.
No. Or at least they were, especially during that time.
Right.
Not friends.
Okay.
So right, the origins appear kind of, some of this comes from like not understanding how old maps work. Right. I think one of the reasons this whole thing makes me so furious is because it falls at a cross section of a lot of my interests, and it just gets everything about them incorrect. Right. We have people that don't understand maps or history or science. And that's like all things that I teach. And I'm a very big enthusiast of like 19th century history. And like the fact that they don't believe any of it happened just like irks me beyond belief. Sure. I think that might be part of it. But like generally, right. So the Tartar people, right. There actually is a region referred to as Tartary on old maps, right? This was sort of like a blanket term for like the Asian part of Russia, right? Because like the Tartars were like the Mongolian and Turkish people of the steppe, right? Like people that lived in Western Europe, they just called those people the Tartar, right? Partially because the name may come from Greek speaking people, because Tartarus is like the Greek version of hell. So like these were like really fierce like horse warriors, and you basically didn't want to go where they lived. So like they called it Tartary or Tartaria based on that. Like, bro, you don't want to go over there. Those guys are crazy. They'll kill you. Don't go over there. And because not a lot of people throughout history were, exploring Siberia and the East Asian steppe, it just sort of got named that. And then that's, whenever you're making a new map, you just look at old maps and you go, what's that called? Okay, boom, got it. Bam.
Right. It just kind of gets passed down as a tradition.
The name just sticks.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So at some point, it like goes away because they start calling it like Russia and other like Mongolia. They, give them place names. But for a really long time, it was just called like Tartary. Right. But because the name changes at some point, conspiratorially minded people see that and say, what are they covering up? Why don't they want you to know about this?
Yes. Yeah. Instead the secrets of the civilization.
Yeah. Instead of the actual, they just found a better name for it.
Right. As happens literally all of the time. If you look at any map, it just
look at
all of a sudden
map ever.
Yeah. A new name pops up because why? Well, the person in charge went, it's not a good name. I don't like it anymore. And they changed the map.
Yeah. or like California appears as an island for a really long time.
Really long time.
Is it an island? No, it is absolutely
no.
It just like
it makes no sense.
There was like an accident, and then they're just like, yeah, cool, we'll just leave it like that.
Yeah,
nobody can tell me it isn't, so we'll just leave it there.
No, right? Yeah, you prove me wrong.
Yeah. So now here's where we get a problem, right? So this exists. Okay. There's a lot of like fake documents that like back this up, which is a problem, right? There's a lot of things that are like very fake that are about this, or people reading things wrong. I saw evidence of things like this, and some people seem to think that like they think they come from places they don't come from, right? Like it's a whole convoluted mess because people don't understand certain aspects of history. Now, here's the problem. The beginning of the theory, right? Like Tartaria as an empire and like an advanced civilization. Oh, oh no. Oh no, it's Russian nationalism theory. Oh no. Oh crap. It's
Oh.
it was actually first put forth by a guy named Anatoly Fomenko as a way to prove Russian dominion over East Asia.
Oh.
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 Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, bother.
Right? It's also backed up by a guy named Nikolai Levoshe or something, who is a racial occultist. And so he got in on the theory, right? This is where it gets real bad because, like, on the surface, it just sounds kind of weird. When you start digging in, right? There's like, they start talking about like the Aryan race, and they start talking about how like certain groups of people aren't real and don't exist. You know, maybe a certain group of chosen people of Israel, maybe, or
Couldn't.
Yeah. They say that certain events that happened in 1939 to 1945 didn't happen. Oh no.
No.
Oh no. Oh no. Like the really deep people, that's what they think. So this is sort of like a gateway to like extreme racism and weirdness. So that's not great.
Oh no, that's so. Oh man, it's one of those things of like it's not just a fun like kooky thing. It's like a conspiracy used for suppression of others and like
yeah.
Oh.
Now I don't think a lot of people think about it too much, and they don't get quite that far down. But there are a few videos I watched, and it's sort of like there, right? Like the offhand comments are there, the jokes are there. Like oh no. Oh dear. Oh, this is bad. Yeah. So how you feeling so far about the old overarching theory here? And I'll take your questions now. Take a break here before we dive into specific points that make me grumpy.
Okay.
And things that people don't understand here.
So basically this is a weird way of trying to explain why. I mean, really it's the why are there pyramids all over the globe kind of thing where usually people go aliens, right? They're trying to explain a common observation around the globe, and somehow they landed back on a global civilization takeover by the Tartarians, who somehow vanished or whatever. I'm sure you'll get into that here in a minute, part of this reset, whatever those are coming from. But I'm still like, did they have a reason to pick that group? I mean, except for the Russian propagandists and stuff.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Right. I think that was, I think it's sort of like just because it's not like a unified thing. There's not like a Atlantis. There's not like a Plato moment.
Yeah.
Right, where you like really kind of have a lot of things coalescing together. It feels like a lot of different things that people just kind of lump together piecemeal. Because it's really hard to like understand kind of like the whole deal, because most of the videos that you watch are like people just like showing you evidence, right? And those videos are quite short. They're like, oh, look at this building, and they're like 20 minutes. The videos that I found that are of people like really explaining what they believe are like multiple hours long, and I am not subjecting myself to that because I don't want to lose my sanity. And I don't. So I watched some like videos about people talking about the main points and like talking about like a debunking kind of video things. That was a little more palatable to deal with. But like, yeah, you can see kind of like other conspiracy theories, you can understand that there is like a dissatisfaction with certain cultural elements, right? You can feel it, right? And I'll get into some of that a little bit later, but you can understand like, oh, these people are upset about this thing, or they're frustrated about this. And instead of like vocalizing that, they're like daydreaming about some sort of like idealized time in the well, not even ancient past, right? Like 150 years ago. That like was a better time. Right.
Yeah.
And so they're like idealizing that as better. Right. And they're like longing for that. But the thing they want didn't exist because 150 years ago, I mean, there were some parts that were cool, but
well,
right? Like there's some other parts that were very bad.
Well, I have yet to understand this desire or this why there is this fascination with ancient civilizations and empires that they must have had an advanced technology. Like it's weird to me how that is just a pervasive thought of not just, oh, how do I explain these similar structures around the globe, right? It couldn't possibly be the fact that people arrive at a similar form to accomplish a similar function, right? Certainly that couldn't be the case. But also like, the Egyptians had to have had a particle accelerator in the giant pyramids of Giza for reasons. Like, it's like, how did you get there? Like, seriously, like we need to explain, like, why is that something that is just so important? And it's a lot of people think a lot of people think that there were a lot of different civilizations that had very advanced technology. It's one of those common thoughts. Like, I don't know. It's very, I've never understood that.
Sorry, I was turning the fan on. Yeah, like I think that some of it comes with we people in the modern day, so like whatever year you're currently in, right? They see themselves at the end of a timeline, right? Like all of human history has led to you.
Sure.
Right. And so like when you look around and you see certain things that are not happening, right? You're like, well, why? Why is my time not better? Why are we doing these things? Like, why are we not, why do we still have energy problems, right? Why is nobody solving these problems, right? Why is society in this state that it's in? Because there's like a general dissatisfaction with things, right? Like low wages and, all these corporate billionaires and this kind of thing. Like this very big disconnect between like you and like the way that you, like, when you're little and like people tell you about how the world works and it's like it makes a lot of sense and it's like very idealized. And then you grow up and you realize, oh, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of like junk here. There's a lot of like greedy people and there's a lot of like stepping on each other's necks and it's like very cutthroat. And so like the idea of like a civilization with like a lot of technology and like equality and like free energy, these are like exciting ideas, right? Because that's where we should be, right? If you look at like the futurism of the 1950s, right? That's where we should be now, right? But we're not there. Like we're back in 1880 again, right? We are in the new Gilded Age, pretty much, right? And so a lot of these, like the problems of society don't go away. And like, I think it's like a coping, like you're trying to figure out why. Like you can't like, maybe it's the late stage capitalism that's the problem. Maybe it's the government, like the government does suck and they do lie to you. Not about this, right? But like other things.
Well, and if you believe that they would have lied to you about some things, right? It's very easy to then go, well, then they will have lied to me about insert.
because they do lie to you about stuff.
Yes, they do.
Right? They do.
Yes.
And
Surprise.
like, now, are they lying to you about like is every world government getting together and lying to you about the existence of an ancient? No, they're not, because that's dumb. But like, there's like a general dissatisfaction with this kind of stuff, right? And I think that's where some of it comes from. You know what I mean? Like, and so, but again, that's where it gets dangerous too, because they start like talking about things, and they start talking about like, you know, some people are dissatisfied with like their lack of cultural identity, you know, because you're just like an American in 2024. So you're like, what is my culture? The problem is, if you're like a white dude, you're like, well, what's my white culture? Uh-oh. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Pedal.
We're back on that pipeline to bad places you don't want to go. So like, that's why like, even though this seems like a really goofy, weird thing, like there are dangerous elements like deep below the surface that are like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, so we're gonna move on to part 2 of my notes here.
Okay.
I called this refining points, or things that confuse Tartarian believers. Right. Here we go.
Okay.
So this will get into some of their major evidence and why it's wrong, and you shouldn't believe it. Right. So number 1 is cameras. Right. They don't really understand the technological development of the camera. Right. And so they say things like, well, why were there no pictures of these buildings being constructed? Okay. Like, tell me that you currently live in 2024 without telling me you live in 2024. Like, people in 1840 did not have access to a camera 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is not a thing. It was like new and exciting. Like, photography not really taken off until like 1850, right? There were cameras pre-1850, but like the daguerreotype photos, like the tin type stuff, and this is like a whole, blah. It's like got to etch on metal and this whole thing, right? And then not until like 1888 did Kodak really get on with the, first like Kodak cameras, which again, cool, more accessible, not really the best quality.
Nope.
But whatever. So one thing that they will mention is that they'll be like, yo, why are all these pictures of all these old cities empty?
Oh,
right.
Because
they were
photos...
found. Yeah. Yes. So the photographs, the city looks empty. Right. So you have all these giant buildings. Right. And, you got these big buildings and everything, but there's no people in the city. They give you a lot of this like language. The other thing that makes me angry, I'll get back more on this later too, I guess, but like, the language that they use to talk about this thing, like, well, we are told that. Blah, blah.
Yes.
I hate that. But like, so they think like, oh man, there's no way. Why would they have pictures, but like these cities are empty? So that means that the population of the city is not what it lists on the thing. That census information is fake because there's nobody in this picture. What they don't understand is that in order to get a good photograph in like 1860, right, you're going to have an exposure time of like 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And so all of the people won't show up because they're moving. Right? Yes. And so you can see this in some later pictures from like the 1870s and stuff like that. There'll be people, but they're like weirdly blurry. Right? That's because the exposure time is shorter, but it's not instantaneous.
Still not fast enough.
It's still like several seconds. Right? Yeah. So the reason that you get all these like big empty cities with no people in them is because the people are not being caught on camera because they're not standing still for many minutes, right? If you've ever wondered, if you've ever looked at a picture, an old photograph, even from like the 1890s, and you wonder, why are none of these people smiling? Life must have just been miserable. Everyone is so mad. No, it's because holding a smile for the amount of time necessary for the exposure
was exhausting.
It was really difficult. And your
Yes.
picture would blur. So by just having a neutral expression, you're able to stand still for long enough to make a nice photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like, old cameras, not wonderful.
No.
Right? Not great. It's a whole thing, right? Other things that they don't understand, right? A common phrase you get is, well, so I think another reason that I get angry about this is a lot of these videos specifically target Midwestern cities because a lot of our old buildings are still there, right?
Oh,
because
sure.
So unlike the East Coast, now not to say that there's not old buildings on the East Coast, there are.
Sure. No, let's brag
right?
on the East Coast. It's fine. Let's go ahead.
But land value is so high, that a lot of old buildings end up getting torn down and rebuilt.
Yes.
Right. Here in the Midwest, there's, the property values are more, well, I mean, not in 2024, but like historically, like much more reasonable. And so like just sort of like upkeeping a building and reusing it for other things is feasible. Right. So you are correct that we are reusing the buildings. Right. But it's just that they're like now a different office building. Right. Or like right. So like they're not completely rebuilding. And I think one thing that I get really angry about is because a lot of the videos are about like Kansas City. Right. And you're just like,
that's really, really weird.
It is really, really weird. And there's a ton of videos about like St. Louis and Kansas City and like Dubuque, Iowa. You're like, bro, why are you hating on Iowa like that? Like Minneapolis. And you're like, bro, what? Like, what? But they say all these words like, oh, because they have this like idea that like, oh, Kansas City is like on the prairie. Like, I mean, yeah, but like it was a giant transportation hub, right? And then they wrongly look at a railroad map from like 1850 and say, well, why would Kansas City be at the center of this map? It must have already been an important city to be at the center of this map, instead of saying, no, it's a really important cow town that blew up really fast and became a railroad hub to the rest of the United States. They have it backwards.
Yeah. It's not that this was it was worthless around it, and so there's no reason for this to have been here. It was because of its exact location that made it exceedingly valuable. Right.
Yeah. Right on the river, right on the, like where the cows came in, right? It's a big cattle hub, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so a big refrain that they will say is like, I can't believe that a person could build this building with a horse and buggy. That's what they say. They really fixate on like that horses were a major transportation feature of the 1800s.
Yeah.
So people that are, you can't how are you going to transport all this rock on horse and buggy? Right. I mean, if you look at like the Minneapolis state capitol, right, or city hall, state capitol thing, it's enormous.
Well,
right?
yeah.
Like it's a whole city block of building, right? It's crazy. There's a lot of old buildings in Kansas City that are like really, really big, right? But again, so first of all, we're doing the same thing that we do to the Egyptians, right? You're really underestimating how simple machines work and how effective they are at multiplying force, right? So if you just think about like a pulley and a lever, well, there you go. I mean, you're halfway there already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But another thing you got to think about, the steam engine was invented in 1606. Okay. 1606.
Yeah.
Right?
06.
There was several developments until your boy James Watt came along in 1764 and really just ramped up how the steam engine worked, which made the Industrial Revolution happen.
Ta-da!
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, these people are not building these buildings with their bare hands. They have steam power. They have trains. They have steam shovels, right? The first steam excavator was built in 1796. Okay? Steam power.
and I guess this is where this kind of thing like really falls off of it for me, because like it's one thing to look at the pyramids and say, no, there's no way people built this, and like sure, maybe you could quibble about that, but in the 1800s, right, the 1800s, to say that technology didn't exist,
the 1800s,
is just like flat out wrong. Like,
I know. The technology, the mechanical technology that we had in the 1800s is astounding. Right?
Yes.
Industrial Revolution is in full swing by, 1820, right? It is going, like, we are going. We got stuff, right? They're like, well, they'll be like, oh man, there's so many bricks here. How did they make this many bricks? Like, they had industrial size brick factories that made millions and millions of bricks per week, right? That's how it is, man. Like,
and the reason, and guess what, the reason they had that industrial way of making bricks is because they needed to make a lot of bricks, because they used bricks to build things. So
like, there was a lot more, like, nowadays, right? Do you know any stonemasons? Probably not. You know how many like brick masons were probably in Kansas City in 1840? Hundreds. I'm guessing hundreds. Right? So don't even worry about it. Oh man. Other things that they confuse these people would just be the concept of architectural style. Right? Because you're like, oh man, first of all, they're like, oh, this building has a giant foundation. Like, yeah, it's a 7-story brick building. Of course it has a deep, giant foundation. Otherwise, it would fall over.
Yeah. How else do you think things are built here?
What are you talking about? What do you mean? So like, the fact that in the 1800s, there is vast communication between Europe and the Americas, right? And during the 1800s, like, the architectural styles, there was a lot of really popular ones, right? It's basically hold on, let me start that sentence over again. Words is hard sometimes,
Okay.
It's characterized by a lot of like a ton of like really briefly popular architectural styles, right? And so like any time during that like 12-year period, like tons of buildings are going to be built in that style, right? And then another style becomes popular.
Right.
So on both continents. So when you're saying like, why do buildings in London and buildings in Kansas City look the same? They were built at the same time.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Like, there was telegraphs, bro. And
and people were traveling back and forth across the ocean. Like, and people were, it's not as though these, again, 1800s of like a
lot of these buildings, a lot of the other confusing thing, a lot of the buildings they talk about are built in 1880.
Yeah.
Right. And they're like, I don't understand how this building could only be built in 6 years in 1880. Like, well, I have news for you, buddy. That's definitely how it worked. And there's lots of travel back and forth between Europe and England and the Americas, right? International traveling is becoming a popular thing. So the fact that all of these buildings look similar is not an accident, right? And the other problem is we have a lot of revival styles popular, right? So a brief list of several popular styles during the 1800s. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but just like some of my favorites, right? You have Romanesque revival, Queen Anne style, Moorish revival, Beaux Arts. I love the Beaux Arts buildings, by the way. Renaissance revival, Baroque revival, neoclassical, Greek revival, and of course, Second Empire, right? Again, do like Second Empire buildings. But like, that's just a couple of them in that giant time span. So like, come on. Right. To piggyback off this, things that confuse them, I wrote down urban planning, right? Urban planning, difficult to understand, right? One of the things that they talk about is you will look at some of these old buildings, right? Especially like Queen Anne and some of these buildings. They'll say like, well, why is the first floor up high? Right? You have to take stairs up to get to the first floor of the building. This is clear evidence that the original first or second floor has been flooded with mud and then dug out. Right?
Oh, like Seattle and some other cities where they just kind of abandoned the floor and then raised it. Oh,
there you go. Now, that's another thing that happens. We'll get to that in a second. Number one reason is that in a lot of places, the first floor is raised, and there's like windows in the basement because there's no light bulbs. Yes. Right? You don't have light bulbs until much later. So I wrote that down, but I can't remember what page it's on. Oh yeah, into the early 1900s, it wasn't common, right? So you have a window so that your basement can have light in it. Boom.
Yes.
Done.
Yeah.
Another reason is that because the primary mode of transportation during this time is horse. You know what you really don't want at street level?
Indeed.
Your front door. Yeah. Because you know what the street's full of? Manure.
Horse stuff.
Right? So you want to step up so you don't have all that stuff coming in the building. Man. Now, the other thing that does happen, right? You mentioned Seattle, and I'm glad you did, because another thing that does happen and why some buildings do have a first story that is below street level is because the streets have been regraded.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes it's because of actual flooding, like water flooding. That's what happened in Seattle. They regraded a bunch of the streets and they raised the streets up to help with flooding. Right? So there's no like, they're not flooding in the buildings. Or, you're just like rebuilding the street, right? Over time, you just build on top of each other. So like as you take out trolleys or something, you build the street up and the street just comes up. Regrading the street makes transportation more efficient, right? Cars can drive better when they had to do it for cars, right? They had to widen the streets and regrade them and make everything a little bit flatter so that all the stuff worked better. So sometimes the ground around the buildings does rise, but that's because of urban planning.
Yes.
Right. And to make the roads work. It's not a surprise mystery, right? It's why, right? Other things that confuse these. Oh, I told you I'd come back to churches. Now, I said all of these churches are found buildings and are repurposed. Their original purpose, these buildings, they say, are batteries that generate free electricity.
Okay, now we're more in the wheelhouse as far as the pyramids and batteries. So
now we've gone way. We've taken a turn into some wackiness, right?
Okay.
And so they say, one person I saw, he said, the reason that all of these churches look similar is because they're used for similar purpose. Ooh, so close.
So close.
And yet his was battery, right? That's why it tapers as it goes up. Not because to make the brick weigh less, you taper it in and you have the steeple, which is a really important part of iconography. No. Battery. Right? Now, I think one of the reasons, right, because church steeples, right? Also, side note here, a lot of these people just call every single church a cathedral, which pushes up glasses. Actually, the cathedral is only the official church with the bishop of the diocese is associated. So there you go. I thought being pedantic would be important at this time. Right? Churches have big things on the top, right? Oftentimes religious iconography, right? It's usually some sort of cross or something, right? And so I heard several people say, then why does sometimes it look like the top of the building is glowing, if not gathering an atmospherical energy? Again, we're so close, right? We're so close. We're almost there, right? First of all, a lot of these buildings have lightning rods on them. So there's that.
Yes. Yeah,
right.
They're tall. Yeah, okay.
They're tall. They have lightning rods on them so they don't get struck by lightning and burn down. So that's the big metal thing you're seeing on a lot of the roofs, on the really tall ones. Sorry to burst your bubble. But also, St. Elmo's fire is a thing that exists, right? Now, no, not the 1985 movie. Not that. Not that St. Elmo's fire. Right. I'm talking about the ionized electric field around objects that makes them appear to glow, especially in and around thunderstorm activity.
Yes.
Right? Often observed on sailing ships, right? Back in the day, so back in the 1700s, right? This is a very common phenomenon for sailors. I will excuse you for not knowing about St. Elmo's fire. Kind of a niche thing, kind of not a thing that gets talked about anymore because, we don't sail tall ships and we don't do this stuff. But that is what's happening at the top of these like steepled buildings, because like the narrower the top of the building, the more pronounced the effect will be and the more common it will be, right? Because all of that is charging around the one point, right? You're getting more energy around the singular point. So that's what you're seeing at the top of the churches is the St. Elmo's fire, right?
There you go.
So there you go. Fun little debunkifying there.
There we go.
Yeah, the last thing here that I have on my list of things that mud flood believers don't understand is economics 101, right?
Okay. Really swinging there.
So again, the argument is we don't build buildings like that today, right? You look at like some like the old libraries, or again, like they talk about all the Kansas City buildings, right? All the time. It just makes you crazy. Why don't we build buildings like that today? Right? We can't build buildings like that. It's not that we can't.
Well,
right.
I mean,
it's that it would be stupidly expensive in 2024, right?
Yes.
So here's something about the idealized 1800s that you may not know. Working conditions for people was horrible, and worker pay was extremely low.
Yep.
Right. So you can build a really big, fancy building out of really expensive material if you have cheap labor costs. Right. So if you can use marble and granite and all this stuff if you have cheap labor. Right. It means you can build the building. Right. That's why random places in Montana, they talk about this one place, it was like a railroad station out in Montana, had this giant building. It's not there anymore, but like huge building. It was like a railway guy hotel thing, right?
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, I'm own the railway and I'm going to build this big thing. Like out in the middle next to little tiny huts was this giant, like Moorish revival building, right? But materials expensive, labor cheap. In the 21st century, right? Because labor is very expensive, you have to use cheap material, right? It's not aesthetically pleasing, right? I understand, right? I don't like the look of modern architecture sometimes, right? But it's because that material is much cheaper than marble.
Yeah. Well, so basically what this means is let's say you want to build a $100,000, again, or let's say $1 million building. Back when labor was super cheap, you could use all the really expensive, really nice materials to make up a larger percentage of your overall budget. Yeah. Now that labor is massively through the roof, that takes up even more of your budget. So you don't have as much money to spend on the materials. So you have to cut those and use cheaper versions of those.
Yeah. Right. And so plus architectural styles change, and like, you could blame mid-century modernism if you want, I guess. Curse you, Frank Lloyd Wright and all your stuff. But like, That's it. That's one of the big reasons, right? And so when you say, like, again, like I talked about, like there's a big number of buildings like this in the Midwest, right? Random small towns just still have buildings like this. Like our downtown has a lot of really old buildings.
Yeah.
Because fixing them and just sort of maintaining them is way less expensive than completely knocking them down and building something else. Right?
Yep.
It's because of the property value, stuff like that, right? And I even saw a video where they were talking about, like, well, why does this small town have all of these great buildings here? This is what we're talking about, right? Like, and why are they abandoned now? That's because all of the industry in the town left, right? We think about our good friends in Wowoka. What's up? How's it going? That's like that, right? No more railroad, no more industry. All these really awesome buildings just sitting there, empty, right? Repeat thousands of times throughout all of the Midwest. You have all these towns that were like really big railroad hubs or big important stops on a railroad, or they had like a very specific industry. There was like a factory there that employed like everybody. And then that factory closed down and went away. And all the jobs in the town that were servicing all the people that lived at the factory, worked at the factory. Well, I mean, in 1800s lived there too, basically. Like, that's where all the money in the town was coming from. And it's not sustainable if you take out the money. So they dry up and they die and it goes away. And it is sad that all of these really cool buildings are just sitting there unappreciated and unloved and empty. But that's the reality of economics, right? Yep. I understand why you're angry about that, right? I get it. But that's, that's it. That's how it works. So yeah, boom. In closing, I wonder why this makes me so angry, right? I would like to start my closing statement here with a quote from my good buddy Isaac Asimov, right? That I think sort of encapsulates some of my thoughts here. A very famous quote here: "There is a cult of ignorance in the United States, and there always has been. The strain of anti-intellectualism has been a constant thread winding its way through our political and cultural life. Nurtured by the false notion that democracy means that my ignorance is just as good as your knowledge." Right? So, like, the argument of like, well, I can believe this. I'm special. I know a thing that you don't know. Right? Tries to put, I think that, again, when we get back to like, why do people gravitate to things like this? Like, that's why. Right? Like, I know a thing that no one else knows. Yeah. Look how cool I am.
Yeah, I get to be special. I get to be in the know of something. Yeah.
In the know on something, right? Because they are like left to the side of the Jeff Bezoses of the world who have like $70 bazillion and the world isn't fair and you are struggling. You got to be in on something, right? And maybe secret Tartarian government is the thing that you're in on, right? Like, and again, I just like the way that the information is presented in like just bold-faced lying to you. Like, oh, we can't build buildings today like that. First of all, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral Church in Barcelona, Spain, that started being built in 1882 and is still under construction because they're doing it like this. Right? Like, I mean, it's just a piece of evidence right there. Like, they are building a building and it's taking 1 billion years. And the reason it's taking so long is because it's being funded by like a family, but still, right? Still doing it. Or the Gideon Castle that we talked about in Burgundy, France before. They're just building a castle just like you would build a castle back in ye olden days. They're doing it. Like, it's not impossible. It's just there's no financial incentive to do the thing, right? And like, the intentional dishonesty of using phrases like, well, we are told, supposedly, they want us to believe, like, that's not proof of anything, right? You're just like talking a bunch of word salad and taking advantage of people who don't have a background in the thing you're talking about, right? That's charlatanism, and it is bad. Right? Just like, And then, like I said earlier, I think just like the complete lack of scientific understanding or ignorance of history, right? Because like if you don't understand how science works, right, that's how you end up here, where you go like, oh, well, instead of saying like somebody thought this in, this year, and then 2 years later, somebody came along with a better theory that disproved him. No. They look at the oldest one and say, oh, well, they don't talk about that because it's being covered up. Right. That's not how science works. That's not how history works. Right. You just learn new things and then supplant the knowledge with things that were incorrect. And like, if I think this is the big one, if this didn't happen, right? If there was a reset, that means that a lot of like extremely well documented things and people are not real, right? So you can't tell me that like Napoleon wasn't real, right? You can't tell me that is not a thing that happened, right? You can't tell me that the Tambora volcano eruption wasn't a real thing because history reset and it didn't happen. That's not how this works, right? So, yeah. And in closing, I think the last thing is that a lot of the evidence presented is always like, well, it looks like this, so it must be this, which is not evidence of anything at all. And it makes me grumpy that is just like good enough, right? Like, I think this looks like a brick. It must be a brick. I saw a video today of a guy, again, he was in Kansas City. I don't know what they got against Kansas City, but like he was looking at what is very clearly a rock outcropping. And he said, well, this is clearly ancient brick that's been buried. It is most assuredly limestone and shale, right? It's just limestone. But he was like prattling on and on about how it's brick because it kind of looks like brick. Because, yeah, some limestone looks kind of like brick because of frost wedging and stuff. Like, it just, like, I can't understand what this stuff is in the middle. It must be mortar. It's shale. That's a very common geologic structure in Missouri, is alternating limestone and shale. Like, come on. It's too much. It's too much. So there we go. I think I've ranted enough for now about this, about my great maddening rabbit hole. Very incensed by and enraged by this very terrifying theory. But yeah, there we go. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about things that make me angry this week.
Actually has been being built for how many?
Yeah, 1882 to current is the time there. Right? Or the Gideon Castle in Burgundy, France, that they're just building with medieval castle building techniques. That's a little old, but still, the idea that it's possible and that those techniques are viable, it's just a matter of like economics, like we talked about. Like the Sagrada Familia church is like being built by like a family. So they just like have to bankroll it little by little. So the reason it's taking so long is not that, it should be easier in modern times. It's because it's so stinking expensive to do it.
It's so hard to understand that, right? Of like,
yeah,
just how
it's
much
not that we don't have, because they have cranes and they have modern stuff, but paying for it is horrid, right? Like, it's so crazy. And like I said, the intentional dishonesty and like the gaslighting you of like just being like, well, they when they say things in the video, like, well, we are told or supposedly, or they want us to believe this, right? This is just like charlatan language, right? Like, I have the answers that no one else has, and I'm just going to tell you about them. But like, it's false, right? It's just lying to you, It's just so dishonest and terrible. And I think where it really breaks down for me is that we have a very, very just complete lack of the understanding of how science works. Right. Where when you take evidence, right? Let's say somebody wrote a book in 1835 and then somebody wrote a book in 1840 talking about how that guy was wrong. Right. A person that doesn't understand how science works and how peer review works and how, getting new information through experiments works might look at that and say, oh, they're just covering up the 1835 guy. They just don't want you to know what he was all about.
He was actually right all along.
Yeah. But he was working. He was probably right for 1835.
Yes.
Right. And then people found new information that made him incorrect. And in science, that is a good thing. Right? That's the whole point. Right? It's not like, oh no, you're terrible. Like some of this stuff, some of these people's ideas, like they were probably good at the time, right? Like blah blah. And then also another thing is like just the complete ignorance of history. So if this theory is true, and there was some sort of like mud flood, air quotes, reset that happened sometime between 1812 and 1850, that means that Napoleon Bonaparte was not real. That means that the Tambora volcanic eruption of 1815, one of the most gigantic volcanic eruptions in the history of the world, was not real. Right? A whole litany of things that happened in the 1800s were not real. It means the Crimean War, potentially not real. People, these are just stupidly well documented things that 100% did happen.
Right.
And your theory implies that they did not. That I just can't. I just can't.
Yeah, when theory starts having when these theories and ideas basically like all of that history and stuff, just go ahead and just forget it. It's not that big of a deal. Just never that didn't happen. Right?
Yeah, and I think that is another thing. It just irks me like mightily because like the 1800s is actually an extremely well documented time span, and like tons of important things happen. That means that Beethoven is potentially not real, right? Beethoven's Ninth Symphony debuted in 1824. Potentially fake. You're telling me that Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is fake? Is that what you're telling me right now?
It was never a Beethoven. It was all made up. And then you just have to start getting into the to what end? But seriously,
yeah,
why?
Also true.
Why was this perpetuated? Right? It's so, yeah. And I can't even get enough people in the government to actually do real work, let alone perpetuate these kind of things.
Yeah, let alone agree on this nonsense, right? Like, yeah, again, you're telling me that King Leopold, not real. I think many Congolese people would disagree. Right. And then I think kind of in closing, right, they the only evidence that ever is presented to you is it looks like this, therefore it must be this. It's not evidence. Right? That means that the cloud that you saw that looks like a bunny must actually be a bunny. That's not how this works, right? I saw a dude in Kansas City, because they hate on Kansas City all the time. It just irks me greatly, right? As a Missourian, get off. What are you doing? But he was looking at this thing and he was like, yo, this looks like old bricks that have been buried. What he was looking at is very clearly limestone.
Oh no.
Right? He's like, yo, this looks like it could be mortar in between these bricks. Shale. It is shale. Because alternating limestone and shale formations are extremely common in Missouri.
Oh no.
right?
Oh
He's-
no.
So some other guy was in someplace in Kansas. He's in this thing. He's like, well, we're told that this used to be a quarry, but it looks kind of like a foundation to me
Uh-huh.
because it's a limestone quarry. And he's like, I can't figure out what these big cracks in the wall could be from. It's a quarry.
Wow.
The town that you're next to
Oh,
has a
no.
lot of buildings built out of limestone.
Limestone.
I Googled it. I checked. It literally took me less than 2 minutes
Yeah.
of Googling.
Well, and it's
And-
very that kind
And
of
it proved his whole entire 22-minute video was 100% false. I
yeah.
disproved it in less than 2 minutes.
Because I did some Googling. And that's like ultimately where it's like it just takes a little bit of knowledge and where people just can't be bothered. Because yeah, growing up in the Midwest, limestone's everywhere because it's really abundant and it's a great building material for all the old buildings. Like because they had access to it and it was easy to work
really
with.
easy to work with, right?
Yeah.
Like, how did they
Yeah.
make this big giant block? Bro, that is limestone.
That's
You
limestone.
can look
It's-
at it and it will break.
It's actually very easy to just go breathe on it for a little bit, like you'll be fine. And to not even put that much effort into it and to be so caught up in your preconceived notions and your biases to not allow you to see that fact of everywhere people go, they're resourceful, they will use what they have to build things that either A, they have a previous connection and memory of, or B, there are only so many forms that you can use to perform a certain function in the world. Let's be perfectly honest. Like it's just going to happen.
It's crazy. Right? It's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. There is my deep dive into the rage-inducing topic of the mud flood. Oh, and I guess in final closing, do we have any geologic evidence of large layers of mud covering big areas? No, we do not. It doesn't exist. It's not there. If you dig a hole,
in case you were
you will not
wondering,
find it.
In case you're wondering, actually,
if you dig a test pit anywhere that this is claimed to have happened, you will not find any evidence of this at all.
Yeah.
So get wrecked. I don't know what to say. Like,
crazy how that works.
Yeah, so weird.
Oh
yes, I always need to share and rant with you and all of our lovely listeners about the thing that's been driving me absolutely crazy this week.
Well, now I'm thoroughly depressed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I had to share this with you. I had to share this Tartarian nightmare.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. So, boom, hooray!
Oh, many crickets. Okay, well,
yeah. In closing, I guess we should introduce our. We decided on the book.
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. So, hard shift to our upcoming summer book series.
Actually, tangentially related because it is actually of the time period, kind of in question.
Yeah,
so
that didn't
like,
exist
awkwardly.
So we're
So,
speaking of things that don't exist,
may or may not exist.
Oh, yeah.
I've entitled this page of my notes Samuel Langhorne Clemens, or How Riverboats Shaped American Literature.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Yes. Yes, we are reading for our summer the Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. King Arthur's Court. Is that right? Is that right?
It is right.
Okay. Want to make sure. I actually, this is one of those books that I can't remember if I've ever read because it was so long ago if it did actually happen in my life. So I am going to be, I think, reading this with fresh eyes either way.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever read it, but I do know that this is like, it's like weirdly referenced just all the time in pop culture in America.
Yeah.
That there are a lot of parts that I kind of know about, but like I don't think I've read the book.
Sure.
Right. I've never read the source material. Like I'm familiar with references a little bit, but I've never actually read the source material. So maybe I will become even more familiar with references afterwards.
Even more. Huzzah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to start seeing it everywhere now. That's
Probably. That's how that works, right?
Yes.
That's how it works. You're like, oh, it's everywhere. Secretly everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so that's I'm very excited to dive into this.
Pretty good. Have you ever read any other Twain, or should we save that conversation for next week when we start?
I think we can just talk about it a little bit here.
Okay.
Honestly, the Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer is where I'm coming from.
Same.
So,
except for I have also read and actually thoroughly enjoyed the Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County.
Okay.
I got the short story. That's like the short story thing that he did. I read that one time in like a lit class or something, and it's hilarious. So that's, but yeah, other than the Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County, also really just Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. So I think next week we'll launch into that. We'll talk a little bit about our his place. I want to talk about a little bit of his placement in history and
a little bit of background
and influence on American culture and everything.
I think so. Because I'll re-mention this next week. I started a couple notes about him, but like really, like the American author, right? Like kind of one of the first to depart sort of copying the English style, right? And it's like 100% American author, right? Like not even trying to care about literary tradition, right? Just like, except for this book is weirdly about King Arthur, but that's fine.
But that's fine. But it's of a style, right? It's definitely
it's of a style.
Yeah, just because it's using the same words doesn't mean that it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of commentary. Yes. He's also very famous for that. So we'll get into that too as well next week. We'll talk about that. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. So look, excited. I'm ready.
I too. I got my book. I've ordered it. I ordered a copy just because I like to have it. Although it is part of Project Gutenberg, so you can't just read it online for free.
I did see that. I'm not going to be reading it off there. I will be reading it off of a different version. So
that's fine. I was mentioning that in case anybody else is interested in reading long. You don't have to buy it. It's just there. You just read it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a physical media fiend, so I have to have my bookshelf going. But other than that, we can talk about that later. I'll talk to you about that next week because my issue's cool. But anyway, that's for next time.
My issue's cool.
I did. I got it. I'll save it.
Okay. Save it for later. Okay.
We've already gone long. So
yeah. Okay. And on that cliffhanger,
we'll stay there. And then time for some haiku redemption.
Yes. Yes.
As I want to do, right? A little behind the scenes here. A lot of times what I do is I can come up with the first two lines pretty good. And then I have to sit on it. And I don't have the last line for a while.
Yeah.
And that's what happened last week. I was just I had two lines, but I did not have a closer.
Fair. Okay.
So my haiku writing process is I usually get the first two lines pretty good, and then I have to really search for how to close it out. And that's what happened last week, and I fell behind.
Hey, so this has been simmering for a while now, so it's good.
Yeah,
now. It's good. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. Strolling through the grass, laughter floats along the breeze. Peaceful oasis. Yeah. Referencing, of course, our going to walk in the city park time. So there you go.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh.
And the weather has been nice where we've been able to do that. Hopefully been able to do that several more times too. So
yeah. So
good.
Bam.
I like it. Okay. Well, lots coming up with the book and everything. So we'll we'll tackle all that next time.
True. I'll write a few. I started a couple little notes about Twain. It's like just sort of in general things. So I'll add to that so we can have that to lead us off, and then we'll dump in there. So.
Okay. And off we will go.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you for indulging my very long episode-long rant here today.
I loved it. Sorry about my weird technical issue. I don't know what happened
right.
there. So
it's all good.
We're good on this end. But yes, I mean, I loved it as much as I'm terrified by it. So knowing that is actually out there in the world, I need a nap now for sure.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Well, love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.